So remember our list of fly names? Suppose we want to do something with that list now that we have it. Just even something simple like printing out a list of all of the fly names. How do we do it? Well, right now, the only way we know how to do it would be to print out the first one with flies of 0, the second one with flies of 1, and so on. Well, that's crazy, right? That's not a very efficient way to iterate over all the items on the list. The whole point of a computer is to do things efficiently. So today we're going to talk about iteration. That is the process of writing a computer program that automatically iterates over all of the elements of a list. So let's take a look at how we can do that in Python. We are going to introduce a new language feature called the for loop. And what the for loop does is it takes a list as a parameter, then it takes a variable and a body or a sequence of statements, and that sequence of statements gets executed once for every element in the list, where that variable gets assigned to those elements of the list one at a time. Let's take a look so we can see what that looks like. We're going to use PyCharm, the editor that we used before, so that we can write some programs that are multiple lines long and see the output of them. Let's start by setting up our same variable that we used before, flies, which is a list of fly names. We can print the fly names, run it, and in the bottom we will see the output. And just to remember how this works, the first line you can ignore. It says what Python interpreter version we're using. And the last line we can ignore, which is just saying that we finished. It's everything in between that we care about. And this shows the output there. Okay, so instead of just printing the list, what I'd like to do is iterate over that list and print one line at a time. And this is how we do it. We're going to say for fly in flies colon. This is the magic for loop that I was just talking about and has all the elements that I mentioned. There's the keyword for. We define a variable which is used just inside of this loop, the keyword in, and then the name of the list, followed by the colon. When we do this, all of the statements on the following lines that are indented get executed once for every value of the list of flies. And for each of those iterations, the variable fly will have the value of the next element of the list. So we can do something simple and just print fly. And what this will do is for each fly in the list flies, we'll print the fly name. Let's run this. And sure enough, we can see here that's exactly what it did. So already we're on track. We can make this a little bit more interesting if instead of simply printing the name of the fly, maybe we want to print something along with the name. For example, my name is, colon, and now we can concatenate two strings. The fixed string, my name is, and then the variable string fly, which is the name of the fly. We run this, and now we can get this slightly more interesting output. Suppose we wanted to do something a little bit trickier, which is to include the fly number in that print statement. So instead it would say something like fly number 1 is buggy, fly number 2 is dizzy. Well, think about that for a minute. How could we do that? Somehow we'd have to keep in mind which fly number we have during the list, during the iteration. But the for loop doesn't tell us that, so we have to keep track of it ourselves separately. And we can do that by making a new variable called flynum, set it equal to the first fly number. This is for printing, not for indexing. So we can start at the number 1, since it's going to be for human consumption. We can just change this and use this to say, instead of saying my name is, we'll say fly number. That's the string part. Then we'll add on the number part, And then we'll continue concatenating colon, and then the fly name. We've done something like this once before, and if I remember correctly, we'll have an error. And the error is that you cannot concatenate string and int objects. Fly num is a string, fly number is a string, and here fly num is an int. We need to convert the int to a string. You may remember we can do that with the string function, which can take a number and convert it to a string. We can run this, and now we almost get it right. We've got something, except fly num is not changing. It's always 1. So what we need to do is add 1 to the fly number at each iteration of the loop. We can do that by adding another statement indented so it gets executed as part of this loop. And we add 1 to fly num. So the first time through the loop, fly num will be 1. The second time through, it'll be 2, and so on. And now when we execute this, we get exactly what we want. So to summarize, the syntax of the for loop is the word for, followed by a variable, followed by the keyword in, followed by the list that's being iterated on, followed by a colon, and then a sequence of indented lines, which is called the body. And that body will get executed once for each element in the list.